The mainstream media is being extraordinarily cautious about what it's reporting at the moment about both the Israeli attack on Iran, about indeed the allegedly Israeli attack on the consulate in Syria. It wasn't the consulate in Syria. It certainly wasn't the embassy. Was it the consulate? No, it was a little house next to the consulate, which was the IRGC headquarters. Now, if the people in there were plotting the next attack in Israel, maybe it is a legitimate military target. I don't think it was a wise move, and I don't think it was necessarily a a clever move, but I think it might have been a legitimate target. And and also, of course, I have no idea whether it was actually something that was done by Israel, but you won't find that debate in the mainstream media. Equally, when I was looking for information about what was hit in Iran, and there's not very much information. You get the impression, certainly from the Iranian side, that very little was hit. That there were some strikes, or there was one missile that struck somewhere near Isfahan, in the center of Iran, not in the north, and um, and the Imam Khomeini airport was closed for a short period of time. But you don't get the sense that there were sort of 7 or 8 missile attacks, which seems to have been the case. Uh, and Iran wants to underplay that, maybe because they don't want any further conflict. Certainly, America wants to underplay it, and arguably leaked the fact that it was happening to try to undercut Israel's determination to at least uh, show some sort of gesture of retaliation, and that's what it remains, a gesture of retaliation rather than a defiant strike, because Israel, in a sense, sent a clear message. It struck a a site very close to the Isfahan nuclear site, says the Jerusalem Post. Very close to, but not actually. So, arguably saying, well, we could do significantly more harm if we chose to. This is a message. I hope this is this is the end of the matter. But then I am ever optimistic. In the same way, I am ever optimistic that, for example, the police presence in London with these marches is is a positive thing rather than a negative thing. But I find it really hard to deal with the attack on the Jewish fellow, which I was talking about in a previous video. I find it really hard to reconcile that with the fellow talks about how the police are just doing their job, and what a hard job they've got to do. Well, yes, but the reality is that the police are there to protect everybody, and yes, they have they're there to make sure that the protest goes off successfully without causing a crisis. But equally, you know, um, these marches go on different routes each week, and people have a right to go through their ordinary life, cross the road if they want to, and the police should accommodate that rather than say, if you stay here, you're looking obviously Jewish. you need to stay on this side of the road and leave the area. Why? It's an outrageous statement, and again, it hasn't really been covered by mainstream media. And tomorrow is a Saturday, and tomorrow there will be another march. And this situation in Israel is getting worse rather than better. And are the marches actually helping? You know, I have no problem with people marching. What have they achieved? What have they achieved? I'm not sure they've achieved very much. And I think I come back to something that I raised a few months ago, that the idea of marching in the street is a 19th century convention to challenge the system, to raise awareness. We have so many other ways of raising awareness. And in fact, one way that we have of raising awareness is to write letters. And we seem to have stopped doing that. Maybe because the post office is so useless. But letter writing, rather than emails, letter writing is a way to get the attention, not form letters, real letters that have been purposefully written. That, like the sort of letters that Amnesty International used to encourage people to write to prisoners in the USSR. Follow a format, but not a form letter, and write with passion about the issues, and send these letters to people who are going to be in a position to take notice. Senior politicians, senior police, people from other countries who have positions of authority. Letter writing, I think, is what, and I certainly do it, by the way. I'm not preaching here as somebody who doesn't do it. I do it. And sometimes I get replies, and often I don't. And it doesn't really matter. I just think the people are rude, and I resent it, and I sort of clock it up and think, well, I'm not going to be expecting a reply from that person again. But letter writing is one of the most valuable things we can do, because it's there in black and white. It's on a piece of paper, and it can be thrown in the bin, but it's less likely to be thrown in the bin if it's a personal letter addressed to an individual, urging a change of heart, urging a change of behavior. And I think our police force is wrong. The policing of these marches is wrong. People who live here have every right to roam those streets, whether there's a march happening or not. Every right. And to be stopped and said that you look Jewish is outrageous. Utterly outrageous. I mean, I'm sorry to keep going on about it. I can't get it out of my head.